Good morning. Uh, Sorry for the delay, and, it's an early Monday morning for me, and I'm behind schedule. Hey, we got some people from our movie night. Addie, welcome to the weekly live stream. For those that are new here, my name is Austin Bach. I'm the host of this. This is put on by OTR Gold, this YouTube channel. We are here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at usually 9 a.m. Today it's 9:05 a.m. Pacific, listening to one episode of Dragnet each live stream until we've listened to all 310 episodes currently available. we're we're on episode 37. That's the one we're going to be listening to today. The title is called The Big Grifter. Um, Today's episode, I did listen to the majority of the episode ahead of time. The postal inspectors are mentioned in this one again. After, if you had joined our Saturday night movie night, we had a little side chat about postal inspectors and how they're probably the least known federal law enforcement agency. Um, but then, yeah, the very next episode of Dragnet, they're mentioned here. So keep an eye, not keep an eye out, but keep an ear out for that. You hear them get mentioned. Today's episode was originally aired on Thursday, February 23rd, 1950. And that's 2 weeks since the previous broadcast. Up until then, they've been about a week apart on Thursdays. This one, they took a week break for whatever reason. And so we have a bigger window of historical events to cover. So since the last episode of Dragnet was aired on February 9th, 1950, the American swimmer Mark Spitz, who won what was then a record 7 Olympic golds in 1972, was born in Modesto, California. Um, I don't know when that record was broken. I think Michael Phelps broke it, but I don't know if it was broken before then or not. I'll have to do a little bit of research. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. Let me. I also noticed watching the replay of Saturday, there were 2 times where I thought I muted myself where I didn't. One was when I was talking to my daughter, the other one I was talking to Alexa. I don't know what button I was pushing, but I thought I was muting myself. So let me test this mute button. If I push this button, can you hear me? I'm hoping that you didn't hear me say, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" Um, because I need a mute button in case I have to sneeze or take a drink of water or something. But anyway, so other things that have happened since the last episode of Dragnet. We have Peter Gabriel, the the rock vocalist and composer. He was part of the band Genesis, and then also obviously created a bunch of stuff on his own. He was born in Surrey, England. The rock guitarist for the band Heart, which was uh, created here in Seattle, Washington, was born. They're known for the song "Crazy on You," among other things. Crazy on You. Ken's TV, Channel 5 in San Antonio, started broadcasting. Walt Disney's animated film Cinderella premiered in Boston, Massachusetts. WSYR, now WSTM TV, Channel 3 in Syracuse, New York, began broadcasting. The primetime game show What's My Line started on CBS. The actress Sybil Shepherd was born in Memphis, Tennessee. And this is another cool one. The director John Hughes famous for Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's, but my personal favorite, Home Alone, was born in Lansing, Michigan, the week before this episode was broadcast. WOI TV in Des Moines, Iowa, began broadcasting, and the American Basketball Hall of Fame forward Julius Erving, also known as Dr. J, was born in East Meadow, New York. So some cool things happening. Oh, sorry. Let's get this chat here on screen. There we go. Thanks for the note here in the comments. You should see the comments on screen the whole time that we are listening to the show today. If you want to participate in the chat, you need to be watching from the OTR Gold YouTube live stream. So if you're joining us on Twitch or on a different YouTube channel or anywhere else, there should be a link in the description to get to the OTR Gold stream. It's usually a fun time. Roscoe says he got here late because of computer issues. Same. I did too. I was 5 minutes late for computer problems. It's actually user error, but we're here now. So thank you all for being here. We will listen and we'll get the show started. And as always, we'll have a good time in the chat. And then as promised, as I'm pulling this up, as promised, I'm going to be working on that double feature video, and we'll have a premiere of that sometime this week. And again, that is one of the very first episode of Dragnet on TV was a reused radio script. And so I want to cut together a video playing the radio program first, and then immediately followed by the TV adaptation of it. And then you can see how things changed between the two formats and which you like better. I have my own opinion after watching them, which I prefer, but I will keep my opinion to myself until I hear from others what they prefer. Okay. So enjoy episode 37, The Big Grifter. Welcome to Dragnet from OTRGold.com. This episode will begin after a brief message from our sponsors.
The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all long cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to bunco detail. An expert confidence man has resumed operations in your city. His criminal record dates back 35 years. He's a master in the art of the gentle swindle. Your job, stop him.
If you want a long cigarette, smoke the best of all long cigarettes. Smoke Fatima. Fatima is the long cigarette which contains the finest Turkish and domestic tobaccos superbly blended to make Fatima extra mild. And that's why Fatima has a much different, much better flavor and aroma than any other long cigarette. That's why Fatima has more than doubled its smokers coast to coast. So, enjoy Fatima, the best of all long cigarettes.
It's wise to smoke extra mild Fatima.
It's wise to smoke extra mild Fatima.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, July 28th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch at a bunco detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from the record bureau, and it was 10:45 a.m. when I got to room 38, bunco fugitive detail.
Friday?
Captain, they're bringing him in now.
Sit down.
Thanks. There's the mama sheet on him.
Oh, Gentleman Wallace. I thought he was out of our hair for good.
So did I till this turned up. I heard he was working New York.
Look at the package on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like a good-sized dictionary.
Yeah. Check the date of his first arrest there.
June 2nd, 1913. He's been in and out of jail all over the country. Look, Lane County, Oregon, forgery. Bum check beef, San Francisco, 1914. Embezzlement, Santa Ana. Parole violation, Seattle, Portland. More checks, Reno. Billings, Montana, forgery, 1920. Dayton, Ohio, Pittsburgh, New York, grand larceny. Bunko Raps, Las Vegas, Cleveland, Chicago.
That's only the first page. There's a couple more there.
Yeah, it reads like a novel.
Just about as long.
What's the story on Wallace this time? What have we got?
He reached a couple of used car dealers Saturday. Took them for $2,000 each, and we can't touch him.
Why not? How'd he work it?
Well, Saturday afternoon, he went to a car lot on the corner of South 3rd and Washington, and he bought a 1948 Lincoln sedan.
Mm-hmm.
Showed him his identification, wrote a check for $1,500 for a down payment, and drove away.
Another bum check deal.
It's a little more than that. About 45 minutes after he left, he drove into another used car lot 2 blocks away from the place where he bought the Lincoln.
Yeah.
Told the salesman there that he didn't like the car and he wanted to trade it in on another one.
Mm-hmm.
The salesman offered him $900 less than he paid for it. Wallace accepted and offered them a personal check to cover the balance.
And the salesman went for it?
Almost. Wallace seemed so anxious to get rid of the car that the clerk got suspicious, but it was late Saturday and he couldn't call the bank on Wallace's check.
So he called the place where Wallace bought the car.
That's right. We found out that the sale was made less than an hour before and that Wallace had given them his personal check for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 2 used car dealers got on the phone, decided that Wallace was pulling a fast hustle, called a cop, and had him jailed. Mm-hmm. Hold that light a minute, will you?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, then what?
Well, when the banks opened Monday morning, they called about Wallace's account. He had enough money in to cover both checks. Wallace got a lawyer and threatened suit against the 2 car dealers. He had both of them cold. They settled out of court for $2,000 apiece.
Quick deal. Sounds like a master.
He's been grifting for 35 years. Knows the con game any way they want to play it. We can't even book him on a VAG charge. He's got a job.
And who's he working for?
Plastic outfit out in Pasadena. Salesman.
Is he registered under 5238?
He is.
No, just a minute. Yeah? All right, send him in. Romero, he's got Wallace with him.
Oh.
Captain?
Ben?
Wallace, this is Captain Bryce. Captain, I'm very happy to know you. I've heard a lot about you.
Yeah.
Sergeant Friday, how are you?
We'd like to talk to you, Wallace. Sit down.
Oh, thanks. It's warm out today.
Mm-hmm.
Perspiring. Now, what is it I can help you gentlemen with? Always glad to cooperate.
You don't have to give us a build-up, Wallace. We're not buying.
You know me better than that, Sergeant. No point in making this visit an unpleasant one. Cordiality, that's a secret. My mother always used to tell me that. She used to say...
Look, mister, you're not here to get the keys to the city hall. You're here for investigation.
I'm here out of courtesy, Captain. My lawyer informed me I didn't have to come. I don't believe in making enemies, that's all.
For a guy that's not trying, you've done pretty well, haven't you? Now, how long do you plan to stay here in town?
Los Angeles is my home. It's my place of business.
That's fine with us, Wallace, just as long as it's honest. Now, let me hand you a piece of advice. You try copping any more jobs in this town, and we're going to lean on you, understand?
I don't think I do understand, Captain. The incident with the used car dealers, I hope that isn't what upset you.
You guessed it, and it better be the last caper you try around here for a long time.
I had every right to take action against those car dealers. False arrests. They humiliated me. They damaged my reputation.
Here's your reputation, Wallace. 35 years of it. 10 jail terms, larceny, bunco, forgery.
Have you ever heard of rehabilitation, Sergeant?
Oh, yeah.
I did my time. I don't owe them a day. I got an honest job. I've been off the grift for years now.
And take a hint, Wallace. Stay off. You'll do better.
That's all, Wallace. Just remember, the next time we tag you, you're going to fall hard. You got it straight?
Captain, I've been square since I got to town. I'm not switching. Is that it?
That's all.
Well, that wasn't so bad. Would you gentlemen care to have some lunch with me at the club? Just a snack?
No, thanks.
Sure I can't persuade you. Club's just up the street. Fine food.
Some other time, Wallace. Goodbye.
Well, goodbye, Sergeant. Goodbye to you, Captain.
Yeah.
Well, we gave him the word.
I don't know how much good it's going to do.
What do you think, Skipper?
There are 2 things about grifters. They never retire and they never change. Watch him.
For the next 4 months, Charles Wallace was kept under surveillance. From his daily actions, there was nothing to indicate that he'd returned to his former profession of confidence man. From experience, we knew it was too good to be true. For a man who had worked the con game from every conceivable angle for as long as Wallace had, chances of his going straight amounted to less than 1 in 1,000. Just as a dope addict is a slave to drugs, the full-fledged con man or grifter is obsessed with the idea of swindling for a living. He loves his work and he takes pride in it, just as much as a doctor, a lawyer, or any legitimate professional man. He has a life and a code of ethics all his own, even has his own language. The grifter's victims are wealthy, middle class, and poor, and many more than the average citizen imagines. Wednesday, December 1st, 1 p.m. Ben and I had lunch and checked back in at the office.
Food's getting better at the cafeteria, don't you think?
Beef stew is pretty good. You got an extra coat hanger in your locker?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, here you are.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Conan.
Joe, did you see this report the post office detail sent over?
You mean that Lonely Hearts ad?
No, this is a different one. Real twist.
How you mean, Harry? Let me look, huh?
Here. Barney Grant, that's the name he uses anyway. A couple of weeks ago, he planted a small want ad in the newspapers around town. Been cleaning up ever since.
How'd he work it?
Here, take a look at the ad he was running.
Remember, tomorrow is the last day to send your dollar to Box 565, Main Post Office, Los Angeles. Was that all?
That's all it took. Last couple of days, been getting about 40 letters a day from people in this city.
With $1 in each one.
Ad doesn't promise a thing. Just send your dollar. People send them.
They picked the guy up, Harry?
He called for the last batch of letters 2 days ago. Probably pulled out. Postal inspectors checked the address he gave when he applied for the box. They never heard of him there.
Barney Grant. Does that sound familiar to you, Ben?
Little, yeah.
Maybe R&I has a package on it.
Friday, see you a minute?
Right, Captain. Ben, you and Conan want to check that name through R&I? I'll be in with the skipper.
Yeah, okay, Jack.
Well, Friday, close the door, will you?
Sure.
This is Mr. Sawyer. He's with the Western Central Railroad, Sergeant Friday.
Sergeant?
How are you?
It's about Wallace, Friday. Mr. Sawyer has a complaint against him. We've got the crime report.
Gentleman Wallace?
Yeah. You want to fill him in, Mr. Sawyer?
Well, Sergeant, I'm employed as a standards engineer for the Western Central Railroad. Wallace first approached me about a month ago. He said he was an inventor and he was working on plans of a new type of air brake for use on railroad cars.
Go ahead.
He said he'd conceived the idea, but that he needed more time and money to perfect his invention. He told me I'd share in half of the profits he got from his idea. It sounded more than fair.
How much money did you give him?
All I had in my savings account, $3,000. I talked it over with the wife, and the idea looked real good on paper.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to make too much money for myself out of this, but I thought that if I could get a hold of this braking system, it would certainly help the company out.
He took your money and you haven't heard from him since.
Well, I presented the plans to the chief specifications engineer in our eastern office.
Yeah?
I got an answer yesterday, airmail. Our New York office has been working for 2 years on exactly the same set of brake plans.
And how'd he get a hold of them?
From the Patent Bureau in Washington. The company has a patent pending on the new device.
It's all legal, isn't it?
Yes. He simply got the information from them, drew up an exact copy, and submitted them to me.
He sold you an invention that your company already owned.
Yes, sir. And I'm out $3,000.
You know where Wallace might be now?
We've checked the boarding house where he was staying. He left there last night. No forwarding address, nothing.
We've got an all-out points bulletin on him. Do everything we can.
Well, thank you, Captain. Sergeant Friday. You have my card. If there's anything I can do to help, please call.
All right, Mr. Sawyer. Goodbye.
So long.
I know what we're looking for, Joe.
Oh, let's see.
What's that, Romero?
On that phony ad the post office detail reported this morning. Check the name Barney Grant through the crime index. That's the name the guy used.
Yeah?
Oh, this is the package on Gentleman Wallace.
That's right. His alias list goes for 3 pages. Read him again.
Charles French, Walter Grant, Charles Grant, Barney Grant.
That's right. Gentleman Wallace, Barney Grant, same guy.
We got out a local broadcast, an APB, and a radiogram on Charles Gentleman Wallace. For a full month, there wasn't a sign of him. Then we received a communication from the Denver, Colorado Police Department. Wallace had cashed worthless checks in that city in the amount of $2,500, and then he'd skipped town. But before he left Denver, he managed another deal. He sold 30 cartons of electric razors, which 1, did not belong to him, 2, had been stolen from another con man and resold, and 3, the razors didn't work in the first place. The mechanisms had been taken out and replaced with lead weights. Another 60 days passed before we got the next report on Wallace from Cleveland, Ohio. By means of forged papers, 2 well-versed assistants or ropers, and a fast line of talk, Wallace had sold a Cleveland hardware concern a shipment of 10-penny nails, much below the market price. He collected $1,200 as partial payment for the shipment, but it was never delivered. 8 a.m. Monday, March 3rd. Ben and I checked in for work after a weekend off and found a message in the book to report to Chief of Detectives Thad Brown.
Chief, you wanted to see you?
Come in.
Yes, sir?
Gentleman Wallace is back in town.
Where'd you get that?
Guy by the name of Patterson. So,
All right, thanks.
Egan, have Patterson brought to the interrogation room.
Is that Mouse Patterson, Skipper?
Yeah, small-time grifter. He was running with Wallace as late as a month ago back in Pittsburgh.
When was Patterson picked up?
Last night at a big hotel out in Hollywood. He was working a fast deal.
You think he came to town with Wallace?
I know he did. One of Conlon's informants spotted Wallace and Patterson last night. We nabbed Patterson. Wallace slipped away. We figured he'd been operating in and out of the city for about 2 weeks.
Any idea what his angle is this time?
I think so. Take a look at this.
Obituary notices clipped from a newspaper.
How do these tie in?
The con artist takes a dead man's name from the obituary list, finds out a little bit about him, and writes him a letter.
He writes the dead man a letter.
Here's a sample we had reported to us. Read it.
William Radford, 233 South Brookway, Hollywood. Dear Bill, I heard you were sick, and I didn't want to bother you at this time, but believe me, I'm desperate. I don't mean to hound you about the $400 you borrowed from me, but we are having sickness in our family, and I do need the cash. Wait a minute.
Wallace writes a letter like this to a man knowing he's dead, and the family opens it and reads it.
And they figure it's some unpaid debt that they didn't know about, which the deceased owed.
That's right. And the con man collects.
Yeah.
The letter's been showing up right in the middle of funeral arrangements. The family's bereaved, grief-stricken, they're caught off guard. They don't suspect anybody could be that ruthless, so they pay off what they think is a legitimate debt.
Yeah, that sets a new low, doesn't it?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Ron speaking. All right, thanks. I got Patterson in the interrogation room. You two question him, find out everything you can.
Right, Chief.
When you're through talking to Patterson, you can start checking on these names.
What's this?
It's a list of all the names that appeared in the obituary column in today's paper.
It's a long list.
Conlon and Myberg are checking half. You and Romero take the rest.
Right.
Get to those families before Wallace does.
We went down the hall to the interrogation room and questioned Patterson for an hour and a half. He denied that he even knew Wallace. He refused to tell us anything. We had Patterson returned to his cell in the county jail, and Ben and I started out to check with the relatives of the deceased who appeared in the daily obituary list. Adams, Connolly, Craig, Denberg, Donzetti, Edmonds, Fowler. None of them had received letters claiming payment of secret debts owed by the deceased. Well, there are more pleasant jobs than bothering families with an investigation in the middle of their sorrow. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The 8th name on the obituary list was Foreman, Carl J. He was survived by his wife, Jean. She lived at 5821 Santiago Street out in the valley.
We're sorry to intrude at a time like this, Miss Foreman. We know how you must feel, but it's an important matter.
That's all right, Sergeant. Carl was sick for so long. Probably better this way. What did you want to know?
Since your husband passed away, have you received any letters asking for payments on a debt that he might have owed to somebody?
It's funny you should ask. Yes, I have. I got it yesterday.
Yesterday, huh? Do you know the man who wrote the letter?
No, I didn't. I took it for granted that it was someone Carl knew in the Army. Someone he'd borrowed from.
And how much money was it he said your husband owed him?
$400. There's a letter over the mantel. I'll get it for you.
Fine.
Here it is.
Thank you. Signs his name Howard Michaels. Has this man contacted you since?
Why, yes, he has. He called me last night and said that he'd just heard about Carl. He apologized for writing the letter. Said he had some medical bills of his own to pay. I went to the bank this morning and got the money for him. Is there anything wrong?
And he's supposed to come here and get the money?
He already has about 2 hours ago. He seemed to be a very good friend of Carl's.
Ben, you got that mug shot on?
Yeah. Yeah, here it is.
I don't understand, Sergeant.
Is, this the man who picked up the money this morning?
Yes, that's Mr. Michaels. Don't you think he was Carl's friend?
I don't think so, Miss Foreman.
But no one would do that. Who could be that low?
You're looking at his picture, Miss Foreman. His name's Wallace.
You are listening to Dragnet for the step-by-step solution to an actual police case. Here, step by step, are the reasons why Fatima has more than doubled its smokers from coast to coast.
Step 1.
The name Fatima has always stood for the best in cigarette quality.
Step 2.
Long cigarette smokers discover Fatima has a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
Step 3.
Long cigarette smokers find Fatima extra mild. Fatima is the long cigarette which contains the finest Turkish and domestic tobaccos superbly blended to make Fatima extra mild.
And that's why more and more smokers every day agree.
It's wise to smoke extra mild Fatima.
It's wise to smoke extra mild Fatima.
Yes, the name Fatima on that golden yellow package is your insurance of an extra mild smoke.
So, enjoy Fatima, the best of all long cigarettes.
Over the past century, the confidence man here in the United States has earned the dubious title of aristocrat of the underworld. Among small-time thieves, cutthroats, dope peddlers, pickpockets, and similar small fry, he's looked up to and respected. The true con man does not consider himself a crook or a thief in the ordinary sense of the word. He's smooth, courteous, fast-talking, and he lives by his own code of rules. He never uses violence. He makes his living by his wits alone. Generally, he's far above average intelligence, and he's totally without a conscience. He thinks no more of fleecing a day laborer of his wages than he would of fleecing a millionaire. Because of their carefully planned operations, only a handful of confidence men are ever brought to trial. Monday, March 3rd, 6 p.m. Ben and I completed our interviews with the families of the deceased and returned to the office.
Hi, you two have any luck?
Wallace is the guy. We found out that much.
Who identified him?
Woman out in the valley, a Mrs. Foreman. Wallace posed as an old friend of her husband's, took her for $400.
How about Conlon and Myberg, Captain? They get anything?
They haven't checked in yet. I'm waiting for him. How does Mrs. Foreman make a payoff to Wallace? Through the mails?
No, sir. He came out and picked up the dough in person.
Yeah, then there's no chance of tracing him through the post office. Seems like he comes up with a new MO every day.
We checked out the rest of the families of the deceased on the list. The chief gave us no leads.
Don Myers and handwriting checked the letter Mrs. Foreman got. The writing matches with the others. It's Wallace.
Hi.
No, Conlon. Myberg with you?
Down the hall in handwriting. Checking a couple letters with Myers.
Do any good today, Harry?
Some. We found 2 families got phony letters through the mail. Same deal, Wallace.
They pay off to him yet?
Neither one. Told him to sit tight and call us if the guy should contact him again. Explain the setup.
Who are the people, Harry?
Let's see. One's an old fella. Oscar Dunn. Lives over in Highland Park. Other's a pretty wealthy family, Bel Air. Here it is. Elizabeth Secor. She's the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Husband's name, Burton James Secor. Investment broker. Died day before yesterday.
How much of a debt is he supposed to have owed?
The guy in the letter claims $1,200. Signed himself William Kilbright.
The letters mention anything about how the payoff's supposed to be made?
The guy wrote he'd contact him by phone first, then make arrangements to meet him. Both families will call as soon as they hear from him.
Now, if he doesn't change his M.O., we're set.
Conlon, you and Myberg stick with the family in Highland Park. Make sure they understand perfectly what the setup is. If Wallop makes a contact, be there.
Okay, Cap.
Joe, you and Ben cover the family out in Bel Air.
Okay, you got Secor's address, Harry?
Well, here's a crime report. It's got all the dope.
Good. Well,
Now, I'll grab it. Bunko, fugitive, Conlon. Yes, ma'am? When? All right, thanks. We'll take care of it. Secors. Wallace just called him.
what's the pitch?
Wants to pay his respects. He's going to visit him tonight.
7:35 p.m. Monday, March 3rd. Ben and I drove out to Bel Air to the Secor place. It was an English-type mansion with a circular driveway out in front. The wake for Mr. Secor was being held in the living room. The butler showed us into the library where Mrs. Secor was waiting. She told us everything that had transpired since she first received the letter from Wallace following her husband's death. She said Wallace had promised to be at her home promptly at 9 p.m. We waited. 9 p.m. came and went. We told her that if the suspect should call, to make any concessions, to agree to anything in order to set up a meeting with him. At 10 minutes past 10, the phone in the library rang. Mrs. Secor answered it. I listened in on the extension.
I'm terribly sorry, Mrs. Secor. I did want to get out to pay my last respects, but I'm afraid that will be impossible.
Oh, I'm sorry you won't be able to come. I'd like to settle up that debt, the money that Burton owed you.
I do hope you understand, Mrs. Secor. It's very difficult for me to bring up such a subject at this time of your bereavement, but I do have need of the money. You see, it's my wife. She's quite ill, and Well, there are medical expenses to be met.
Oh, I understand. When would you like to come for the money?
Well, would tomorrow be all right?
My husband's funeral is tomorrow.
Oh, I see. Well, where will that be?
At the cathedral on Sunset Boulevard. A requiem mass at St. Mary's at 9 o'clock.
Well, since I don't want to bother you personally anymore, I wonder if it would be possible for you to leave the cash with the head usher there at the church.
Well, yes, all right. I think that would be the best way.
All right, then. Good night, and thank you.
Yes, good night.
I'm sorry. I know that's not easy for you.
That's all right, Sergeant. It's strange, isn't it?
What's that?
One man burns out his whole life making money. The next man spends his time trying to steal it. What does it all mean?
I don't know. We got 2,600 men down in the county jail. They all think they've got the right answer. Tuesday, March 4th, 9 a.m. In St. Mary's Cathedral on Sunset Boulevard, the final rites, a Requiem High Mass, was being celebrated for Burton James Secor. Ben and I were stationed at the rear of the church. Conlon and Myberg, together with 2 other men from Bunko Detail, covered the side exits. An extra detail of men were placed at strategic points around the cathedral. The head usher stood a few feet from the main entrance. With him, he carried a plain manila envelope filled with pieces of newspaper cut to resemble the size of currency, along with a single dollar bill. He had instructions to hand over the envelope without question to the person who asked for it.
15 minutes past 9, Joe.
Yeah. You see that head usher all right?
Yeah, I got him spotted.
All right. Pretty good-sized crowd here. Secor must have had lots of friends, huh?
Yeah. Nice choir. Just wondering, Joe.
What's that?
Suppose he doesn't show up?
Well, that's possible. He might have gotten suspicious.
Could be.
What time you got now?
It's 9:20. Joe, look. Uniformed messenger just came in the door.
Yeah. He's looking around. He's going up to the usher, talking to him.
That's it. Usher gave him the envelope. Messenger's leaving.
I know. Let's hold it. Give him a lead. All right, let's go. Now, let's go, Ben. Don't lose him.
He's getting into that cab.
Come on. Slide over.
You got the cab number?
Yeah, let's move. 10:30 a.m. Ben and I trailed the cab to a bus depot in downtown Los Angeles. We followed the messenger in and watched him check the manila envelope in a key locker. We waited. At 11:45 a.m., another uniformed messenger entered the bus depot, picked up the envelope, and left. We followed him to the Union Railroad station, where he left the envelope at the traveler's aid desk. At 3 p.m., the envelope was still there, unclaimed.
No sign, Joe. What do you think?
It's a pretty fancy switch he's got worked out.
Yeah.
What time's the next train leave?
3:25. Coast Limited for San Francisco.
It's 3:21 now. Wait a minute. See that porter over at the desk there?
I'm talking to that girl there. I don't know.
That's it. She's giving him the envelope. Come on.
Yeah. He's heading up the ramp.
Yeah, let's hustle.
You turn up the left?
Yeah, passenger platform, Coast Limited.
Not much time.
Come on, run. Come on, Ben.
Where'd the porter get on?
Next car. Come on, run. Let's jump. This way. Through here.
That the same porter?
Yeah. He's knocking at the door to that compartment, handing in the envelope.
That's it.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's locked.
Knock.
Yes? What is it?
Conductor.
Just a minute. What is this?
All right, Ben.
Now, look, Sergeant, there's no need for any unpleasantness. Certainly we can sit down and talk this thing over like intelligent human beings.
Grab the luggage, will you, Ben? All right, let's go, Wallace.
Look, will you wait a minute, please? I'm sure we can come to some agreement. I have plenty of money. Look, right here alone in this envelope, plenty of... There's only $1 here. The rest is newspaper.
Yeah.
I've been taken.
So have a lot of people. Let's go.
The story you have just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On June 23rd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
It's amazing how many long cigarette smokers are changing to Fatima. Here is the actual report.
From coast to coast, Fatima has more than doubled its smokers.
Yes, more and more smokers every day are discovering that Fatima is the best of all long cigarettes.
Long cigarette smokers find Fatima has a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
Long cigarette smokers find that Fatima is extra mild because it's the long cigarette which contains the finest Turkish and domestic tobaccos superbly blended to make it extra mild.
So enjoy extra mild Fatima, best of all long cigarettes.
It's wise to smoke extra mild Fatima.
It's wise to smoke extra mild Fatima.
Charles Gentleman Wallace was tried and convicted on 4 counts of grand theft and sentenced to the state penitentiary for the term prescribed by law, with holds being placed on him by 4 other states. You have just heard Dragnet, authentic cases from official files. Technical advice for Dragnet comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.A. Wharton, Los Angeles Police Department.
Dragnet wishes to thank the editors of True Detective magazine for their considerate appraisal of this program. For those of you who may be interested, the behind-the-scenes story of Dragnet appears in the March issue of True Detective.
Fatima Cigarettes, the best of all long cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet from Los Angeles.
Tomorrow, hear the Ronald Colemans in the charming series Halls of Ivy on NBC.
All right, Sam, I'm glad you called that out because I was just going to mention that right at the end. Let me turn off this screen sharing. So this guy's in jail in California, but then there's 4 states waiting in line. Like, okay, after he finishes jail time, we're going to take him back to wherever he's from, and we're going to stick him back in jail where, for the crimes he committed in our state. So this guy is going to be in jail for a very long time. Just wanted to call out what that meant by holds. There's a few things in here, and thank you, Lee, for the well wishes right at the end, and also, yeah, Thomas, we want an update. What socks and tracksuit did you get? But there are a few things I wanted to call out. One, I actually did not notice until the stream had already started that we have passed 3,000 subscribers. We were close over on Saturday night, and then I didn't look yesterday, but yeah, we are less than 1,000 subscribers away from another giveaway. So if you're new here or if you've been tuning in for a while and you haven't subscribed yet, once we hit 4,000 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away one of these radios. So there's actually 3. I was like, you ever see those jugglers that do like juggle 3 things with like 3 blocks and they catch them? I don't think that would work super well here, but here are the 3 we have left. There's a cream, a pink, and this looks super dark compared to the rest. It's a forest green. It's really hard to see. But yeah, if you want one of these vintage styled Bluetooth radios, you got to subscribe. And when we hit 4,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick one at random. Well, I'll give you a keyword or something you put in the comments of one of the videos. I pick from those people. And your odds are pretty good, actually, because channel's not too big, and then you have to comment on something. So I think when we've done drawings, it's like 1 in 20 or less are your chances. At least it was in the past. So they're fun little things. They look great on your desk, and I want to send them to you. So please subscribe if you haven't done that already, and thank you to everyone else who has subscribed. I think we're at 3,012 subscribers right now, which is awesome. I also wrote down right at the end, they said, if you want a behind the scenes look at how Dragnet's made, check out the March edition of True Detective. So again, this episode aired in 1950. So I'm going to go onto Google and see if I can find like scans of the 1950s True Detective magazine. And if I find it in some archival program, I will post a link in the community tab, so we can just like read this vintage, this contemporary, or what is it? Contemporaneous, or when is something when they talk about stuff that's historical, but there's a record of something at the same time. Like uh, if someone's talking about Caesar and they wrote about Caesar in like when Caesar was alive, that's a I think contemporary. It might just be contemporary, and I'm trying to make a more complicated word out of it. But it'd be interesting to see that historical record that was written while the show was up. So anyway, contemporary. That's what I was thinking, but isn't there some other word for it? But anyway, a contemporary history of Dragnet. So I'll try and find that. I'll try and track that down. And then I figured, given the topic of today's episode, I want to just share a bit more about some scams that I think are um, that are common, and then share some best practices for avoiding it. As I said, if you were tracking the comments, I asked people if they've ever been scammed before by like a con man or some sort of scheme. And I briefly shared that I had when I was in college. I was just like driving home from my classes, and this car pulls up right next to me. The storytelling it is embarrassing because it's so stupid. Like there's so many red flags along the way, but I'll tell you briefly. So I pull up. I'm going to go straight through an intersection. Someone pulls up into a turn lane. This guy in a white van like leans out the side and he's like, "Hey, would you be interested in some speakers?" Like we were, and then the short story was like, we were supposed to do an install at. He said on the university campus. We were supposed to do an install on the university campus, but um, we had ordered the wrong thing. So like, we got this in our van. If you want some, we just give you a set. At a great deal. I'm thinking, sweet, I could use speakers. I love deals. So I'm like, sure. He's like, okay, well, just pull through and pull. We pulled into like a Wendy's parking lot, and I can show them to you. So pull over. I think, no harm in looking. So he shows me one box of speakers, and they are pretty nice speakers, or at least I thought they were nice speakers. And he tells me like what they are. And this, I probably could have done some internet research right then. I think I had a smartphone at the time. But he shows me something. And I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll do it. It's like, okay, well, it'll be $200 cash or whatever. I don't carry $200 cash, but there's a gas station down the street with an ATM. So it's like, yeah, well, we can follow you over there. You can get the cash, and we'll give you one of these. So I go out and I get the cash, and then as I have the cash, the guy has this box of speakers. The box looks slightly different than the one that he showed me, but like I'm still not paying attention to these red flags. So I give him some cash. I take these speakers, and then as soon as I get home, I look at the um, I almost said USB, the ISBN, like the barcode number. I look it up because I don't recognize this brand. I'm thinking, did I just get a different set of speakers than the one that he was showing me? And so I look it up and I type in just the barcode number like this. Also, let me side tangent, when my wife went to France, I don't know if I said this already. She was gone on vacation. She went to France with her family, with her mom for her birthday. But they are prepping for the Olympics over there, and this is French tarot cards. I think I have mentioned this before, but I finally learned how to play this. So that's why it's on my desk. But anyway, I typed in the code here, and the first result on Google was like, "You've been scammed. These are garbage. These are garbage speakers." And it's like, "Have you been a victim of a white van scam?" And I look it up, and basically that's the white van scam. Is someone shows you like a high quality product, but then um, when you go to when they give it to you. So let's say I do a white van scam with knives. I show you like super high quality knives, and then you're like, oh yeah, I want that. So then I hand you a box that has knives in it, and you assume it's the same knife that I told you. But after I get your money and I leave, um, you are left with like, the cheapest imported knife from wherever, and I have your money. So I was super mad at the guy, but I was more mad and embarrassed that I fell for the scam. So um, be aware, be aware of that. Don't fall for the same thing. But like I said, that experience has made me way more skeptical with everything else. Like now, I'm not doing anything unless I've done my due diligence. So maybe that was a cheap a relatively cheap way to learn that lesson, but hopefully learn from my mistakes and don't have to spend $200 on that lesson. Then the other thing that I found recently, and we'll end with this, is just like a public service announcement. Um, I I get calls from Microsoft frequently, and they'll say someone's trying to um, access your account, and if you don't want this, typically to make it sound more legitimate, they'll say someone is trying to access your account from X location. And that location, you probably have some connection to, or maybe you have a relative that lives there. And these people are just scraping public information. They might know your name. They could look for people that have your same last name, and maybe with other demographic information can kind of narrow it down and think high likelihood um, that you have a connection to this place. And then they'll use that. It's like someone's trying to log in from, let's just say New York City. I'm like, wait a second. I'm not in New York, but is that my cousin? Is that someone else? And so it seems more legitimate. You say, "Oh, it's not me." You push the thing, and then it gets you on the phone with somebody, and they'll say, "Oh, you're from Microsoft support. We're just checking in if you don't want it." They're trying to get you to reset your password, or they'll send you some two-factor authentication thing that they want you to read back to them. It is all garbage. It is all BS. None of these tech companies will call you on the phone. None of these tech companies will like need you to take action immediately. The whole basis of these scams oftentimes are this very time sensitive thing. Like you need to take this action right now. They're trying to not give you time to do due diligence. So um, if you don't immediately hang up on these people or tell them at least go in knowing that you're about to be scammed so you can have some fun with them. This one guy, I got a call. They say, someone's trying to log in from, again, I'm not going to say the location, but they'll say, let's say it was New York City, and I have family that lives out there. Do you happen to know, like, do you have, or I said, someone's trying to log into your account from New York City. Are you in New York City right now? Like, is that you trying to log in? And my favorite response was, perhaps. Like, tell me more. And he's like, well, are are you in New York City? I just kept saying perhaps. I was answering all his questions, just saying perhaps. And eventually he hung up on me because what they're trying to say is, on a previous call, I said no because I want to see what their next question was. And then they said, well, do you have any relatives that might be trying to log in from there? Because they might be using me to fish for data to then go scam someone that I know. So if I said, yeah, I have relatives, okay, well, who is it? Have they been trying to log in? Then they can call and be like, I've spoken with this other person that you know, and they've given me this information. They're all just trying to make it sound as legitimate as possible. I asked one of these other scammers for their, because they said they're from Microsoft. I said, okay, can I have your employee ID? And they rattled one off super quick, and I have no way of checking. But so they were prepped for that question. Then the next one says, I asked was, okay, what's your email, like your company email? And he gave me an email, but the email wasn't, it had something Microsoft specific in the domain, but they, like, if it's outlook.com, they bought like support outlook.com or on outlook.com. They buy something that sounds legitimate, but it's off by a few characters. So anyway, there's lots of ways to do this. With my dad being a postal inspector, which I mentioned on the Saturday night stream, he dealt with a lot of scammers and fraudsters a lot. Like that was a lot what they covered, which also made me feel like even dumber when I fell for one myself because I had heard about these things growing up. Like, I should have been inoculated to it, but I wasn't. Sorry for the focus issues. When I move my hands up in front of the screen, it focuses on my hands and not my face, or sometimes the mic catches it. Anyway, I'm sharing all that right now. I'm kind of rambling. I just don't want you guys to fall for scams. And the safest way to do it is if it sounds too good to be true or the deal is just too great, it probably is too, like, not true. And it might be, if it is, just take some time to don't get pushed into making a purchase right away. Do not divulge personal information to anybody claiming to be from some tech company on the phone, no matter how legitimate it is. Oftentimes, if it is legitimate and you can, there'll be multiple follow-ups. So just delete the first 4 or 5, they're likely garbage. Anyway, I just care about you all too much. I don't want you to get scammed. Don't be like me. Don't get scammed. Let's see. Okay, I'll go to check the comments one more time. People have been checking my grammar. So we have contemporary is a word, happening at the same time. But I think this was the word. I don't use it frequently. So contemporaneous, I think is what I meant. So, like, there's a contemporaneous account of how they made the Dragnet show, and it was written in 1950. So sweet. Yeah, and I'll try and find it and then share it. Let's see. Tarot. Yes, tarot's not just for predicting your future. This isn't just used by people with a crystal ball. Apparently, this is it was a game. It's kind of a complicated game compared to some of the others that I played, but it was fun. And the deck is unique. I think I showed it already, but they have these cool cards, like this whole set of cards. Kind of cool. It determines they're called trump cards, I think. But it's a trick-taking game. It's fun. White Van Scam. Yeah, we got a lot of good band names here. White Van Scam. I don't know if I'd listen to that one. I've been burned too bad. Caveat emptor. My Latin, or I think it's Latin. What is this? I know. Oh, it's a buyer beware, right? I think that's what it is. Caveat emptor. I think that's something like buyer beware. A lot of my friends got into Vema Verve in high school. Tony, is this a I don't know what that is. If that's, I mean, the Verve is like a band. Are we talking about bands, or Vema and Verve some other type of thing? I don't know. Please leave me more comments. Please leave me more information in the comments after we end this live stream. Oh, energy drink pyramid scheme. I've not heard of this one, but that's, I mean, a pyramid scheme. So it just probably had to buy like 5 cases and get 5 other people to buy 5 cases, and then you get free energy, something like that, probably. If each of you get 5 people to do it, then you get free stuff, but then they are paying, who knows how it works, but probably something like that. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Beware out there. People are out to get your money in dishonest ways. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Sorry for the rambling PSA at the end, but it was awesome to see. I think our peak, we were at like 20 something concurrent viewers today. So hope to see many of you back hope to see all of you back on Wednesday at 9 a.m. We're going to be listening to the very next episode of Dragnet. So happy Monday, everybody, and have a great week. Talk to you later.